Okay, I saw what you did there, Kirito. I saw that. And so, I'm going to try to explain that scene as someone that knows the significance behind Vorpal Strike, but also someone that actually hasn't read this part in the light novel. So I don't really know what Kirito is thinking in that moment, because like I said, at this point the anime has passed where I was at when I was reading the light novel. But to get into the, nitty-gritty details, Kirito, ever since the end of, SAO, Aincrad, he has had this emotional weight on his shoulders about the Black Swordsman persona, his Kirito persona in SAO. And this is something that the anime from Season 1 and even Season 2 really never dives into. It slightly hints at it in some parts of Season 2, but overall, it never really is dived into properly. Because Kirito, regardless of how you feel about it in the memes and all that about SAO, how bad its writing is or whatever, Kirito never changes. The thing about it is that the anime never properly depicted what changes was really happening with Kirito. And that's the fact it was a boy that actually had to kill a lot of people, a lot of weight and blood on his hands, and he has to live with it. And people praise him and call him a hero for defeating the admin, the creator of SAO, and he doesn't really like that title. He never liked that title whatsoever, and he never really liked his position as the Black Swordsman, Kirito that went in and demolished people, someone that went against Laughing Coffin. He never liked that reputation. He never cared for it at all, and that is why he never really mentions it or talks about it that much. And that's what made it so significant in this episode when he uses Vorpal Strike, because it's a very iconic move from Kirito's skill set that he uses in Aincrad. And I want to dive into for you anime onlys, because see, this was never properly established. Kirito, because of how he was, and how SAO was, how there was a lot of PKers and all that, he killed a lot of people with that move, Vorpal Strike. It was a very strong move, he was really good with it. People knew about Kirito thanks to that move alone. That move alone was really iconic for him. It was a big part of his skill set. And Def Gun himself, in Season 2, or, in the Def Gun arc with GGO, he actually mentioned to Kirito, like, that's disappointing. You using that Vorpal Strike like that, the old Black Swordsman Kirito would be very upset if they were to see you now with how you're using that move. And it was because Kirito didn't lose his touch with the move, he just separated himself. He completely disconnected himself from his old persona from SAO because he didn't want to be reminded of the trauma of what happened within that game. It wasn't just the fact that he was stuck in that world for years, it was the fact that he had to constantly end people just for they could be able to survive, others can be able to live, and that is why. And that's why Laughing Coffin is so significant in, Season 2, but also Season 3, because Kirito is constantly, the repercussions of SAO, Aincrad, is still coming at him to this very day. For instance, SAO, GGO, Def Gun, he was someone that was from Laughing Coffin, and it was someone from Kiritos Past, and Kirito was responsible for killing a lot of Laughing Coffin, with Vorpal Strike at that. And then you have this, at the beginning of Season 3, you have to where, Laughing Coffin comes up again, and they mess with Kirito and puts Kirito in this entire situation. So, it's constantly the shadows from Kiritos Past coming back to haunt him. That's what has happened repeatedly since the very beginning of the series. But like I said, the anime hasn't really shown that this past has constantly been just pulling at Kirito, dragging him down, and he's constantly just wanted to disconnect. And so that moment of this episode, when he uses Vorpal Strike and you see him charging, and you see the incarnation system, I'm assuming, pop up, and you see his entire form change into the Black Swordsman, you see actually his Kirito armor pop up from Season 1, and he dons it, and you see how he's charging. Now it's basically Kirito envisioning himself as the Black Swordsman going in to take down his opponent, Chudoken. So that is the significance. Now, like I said, I'm technically an anime only for this part of the series, but it's very obvious if you've paid attention to the story since the beginning as a light novel reader, like, even if you haven't read this scene, you know how important this is for Kirito, that now that the man donned that, it's basically him accepting his past, which fits in line with what he was saying to the administrator in this episode. And he's like, you can't escape from your past. At the end of the day, you are a human. You are someone that makes mistakes. You are someone that can make, a really big mistake and destroy the entire world. Kirito is just pointing at, you can't escape from your past. And so that is the significance of that, and how it ties in with Kirito using the incarnation system to use Vorpal Strike was because he finally accepted his past to where he's fine with it. He's willing to push on forward and try to get things done that needs to be done, and using the techniques that he needs to use if he must to be able to win this. So Kirito now has the resolve. He is making changes. He actually got character development, and that is the importance of that. So yeah, I like that. I really like that. I really need to read the light novel now for this scene, just to get the understanding of Kirito's mindset, because I know for a fact that it would be very interesting to see the psychological hurdles he has to overcome to reach that point where he uses the incarnation system to lengthen Vorpal Strike to take down Shudelkin like that. I'm kind of curious. I really should probably start the light novel very soon, and yeah, I don't know if it's been rushed or not, but I am very curious. But okay, anyways, let's talk about the administrator and what she's doing to the world. That entire segment when Kirito and her are having a conversation about how this world is technically created, and then, Kirito's world and how it could potentially be created or whatever, it's a fascinating topic. It's something that's kind of been there. It's been a theme of this arc since the very beginning, ever since the introduction of these AIs and stuff, these Fluctlights that can be created, and that they're technically humans. This has been a topic or a theme of the story since the beginning, that, at the end of the day, we created this world, this virtual reality world. What's to say that our world right now, like our living world we're living in, isn't a VR experience as well? That's like some form of simulation created by a higher being that could just hit one button and everything is done. That's kind of what the administrator was saying. It's like, do you live your life every single day in your world and try to be good thanks to your creators because you don't want the world to end? Do you actually do that? She's like, I highly doubt all of you do that. And she's like, why should I, bend the knee and all that? I was meant to trample on the world. I'm like, whoa, like, it's crazy that Quinella, the way she acted was very human. She does act very human, and it really expresses how we as a species are as well in our world, that there is people that follow, whoever the creators could be, and then you have some that just completely deny it, and they do know, but they just don't care at all, because they're living their life to the fullest, and that's pretty much what the administrator is doing. She is living her life to the fullest in her way, and she doesn't care about anything else. Once it's over, it's over. She's just living her life until the very end, and that's the great part about this. I love that entire subject with, Kirito and her talking, and the reason why Kirito didn't talk about it at all and he didn't refute it is because he had no answer. It's one of the big things when it comes to today's society. Nobody really can prove or disapprove anything, so that's the point here, is that he couldn't agree or disagree with, the administrator, because what she said was factual. Even though he knows that they created this world, the same could potentially be for his world. He could be a part of a simulation, just like, it's over. And end of the story, GG. And so that's the crazy part about this. So I like that. I like that little exchange between the characters, but also, once again, how Kirito as an individual, he's in this world that once again shows that it's getting harder and harder to realize what is reality and what is VR. And that's been one of the big purposes of the story since the very beginning with SEO, is that in SEO, Aincrad, you could kind of tell that it was a VR, because you really couldn't eat things and enjoy things that well, and, there's just certain elements about it that just did not mesh well and remind you of real life. It kind of took you out of the experience. But that's what made this world so different, is that it's straight up just like the real life. You can feel pain, you can, taste things, see things, hear things, feel things. It's just everything about it is like real life. And so the more and more these games develop and you see worlds like this, the more Kirito is realizing what is reality and what isn't. And that's the scary thing about this. And you gotta imagine, as someone that's constantly jumping from world to world, how hard it could be to be able to get a grasp on reality. You could easily lose yourself in something like this. But okay, let's talk about the situation with the Sword Golem and all that. So the Sword Golem was incredibly powerful, obviously, and it was like 30 plus weapons of these divine objects that, Quinella used to be able to fight back against Alice, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Kirito. And thankfully, the administrator, the other administrator, Cardinal, came in and dealt with this situation because things were turning a little bit south quickly. I mean, Kirito got impelled, Alice got impelled, and, you know, that's another question. Like, we know Kirito is probably going to be A-okay. Even if he was to die, he doesn't probably have that threat because he's just in treatment right now. However, the same cannot be said about this world, said about Alice or Yu-Gi-Oh, because their lives, it's one time. Once they're done, it's GG. And according to whatever, you know, the Cardinal was saying, it's very apparent that the Spider NPC probably cannot come back. Because that was something that was very significant from that scene, that life does have an end in this world, and once it's over, it is actually over, because she explains that the spider was actually an NPC, wasn't a straight-up Fluctolite created like Yu-Gi-Oh, Quinella, Alice. You know, this NPC was a spider that gained sentience, intelligence after hundreds of years of just sticking around people, and it shows that once again, life, it was created, how it became more and more sentient, and it wanted to live, but at the same time, it learned selflessness and sacrificed itself to be able to help out the party for they could be able to achieve and save the entire world. It was a very emotional scene, honestly, even though we haven't had a lot of time with the spider and all that, haven't got to see that character a lot. The point is that it showed that any creature could probably gain sentience in this world, depending on how long it lives and how it takes to learn, like, or how it can learn and all that. It takes time, and because of hundreds of years passing, the creature was able to learn, and that's why it demonstrated what it did to save them. Which, by the way, one of the things I do want to point out as well is that I'm kind of curious if Kirito did use the incarnation system. I mean, he did. It's very obvious. And he created his Black Swordsman persona. I'm very curious if he uses it again. Could he potentially create an incarnation version of him having two swords, pulling two swords out and fighting with? I was, you know, on the same, like, I was under the impression that he was probably going to take a sword from Yu-Gi-Oh or Alice to be able to fight with two swords if he ever had to use Starburst Stream. But I don't think that's probably going to have to be the case. If the incarnation system is really this powerful after seeing what we witnessed, then I'm willing to believe that Kirito probably could will himself his iconic outfit with his two swords to fight against the administrator. I have that type of feeling, because there's just no way we would see his outfit change like that if he potentially could not just, you know, incarnate a sword out of thin air to be able to fight with. I think that's kind of what this is hinting at, that we're going to be getting to see the OG Kirito very soon in these upcoming episodes. Speaking of which, though, I want to talk about that very bloody beginning of this episode. Like, holy crap, Chudelkin got impelled, which, like I said, holds a lot of significance for Kirito's character to be able to kill that man and all that, but that was very bloody. I'm very surprised. It was obviously censored, but I'm just shocked by how violent it was. Like, oh my god, like, holy crap. Good job on that, like, not really full-on censoring that or just axing it. I mean, BDs will fix it up. I'm just, like, surprised it wasn't downgraded or completely cut, because that was a very brutal scene to the beginning of this episode. But I think that's about it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.